Hello guys, this is Paul McWhorter with TopTechBoy.com, and we're here today with episode number 26 in our incredible new tutorial series where you're unleashing the power of your Raspberry Pi Pico W. I will need you to pour yourself a nice tall glass of ice cold coffee. That would be straight up black coffee poured over ice. No sugar, no sweeteners, none needed. And as you're pouring your coffee, as always, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Sunfounder. Sunfounder is actually sponsoring this most excellent series of video lessons. And in this class, we will be using the Sunfounder Kepler kit for Raspberry Pi Pico W. Most of you guys probably already have your gear, but if you don't, look down in the description. There is a link over to Amazon. You can hop over there and pick your gear up. And believe me, your life and my life are going to be a whole lot simpler if we are working on identical hardware. But enough of this shameless self-promotion. Let's jump in and talk about what I am going to teach you today. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you my solution to the homework assignment which I gave you in lesson number 25. And that homework assignment was to take your most excellent OLED 1306 display and to draw a circle on it. So before I show you my solution, it's time to fess up. How many of you were successful? If you were successful, leave a comment down below. I am legend. Double chest bump. And if you were not successful, leave a comment down below. I folded up like a cheap Walmart lawn chair. Unfortunately, I'm going to guess that a lot of you guys probably folded up on this. And I'm going to guess what you did was you started searching on Google how to put a circle on an OLED display. And then you probably figured out that the present library that we are using doesn't work. And then you find one that supposedly does work, but then that one was for CircuitPython or for something else. And you probably just chased around looking for someone else to do your homework for you instead of simply going in and figuring out how to draw a circle. Because what did I show you in the earlier lesson that was key? I showed you how you can address the individual pixels. So what you got to do is you just got to go to the right pixel and you've got to color them in one at a time, and it is quite easy when you do things that way. But in order to do that, what you got to do is you got to do yourself a little math. Okay, you got to do some math. And I can almost guarantee you that 100% of you were taught this math, but I can guarantee you that almost 100% of you probably forgot it. Why? Because when it was taught to you, it was taught in just an abstract concept, and it didn't make any sense because you didn't see why you would ever need it. Well, now what do we need? We need to draw a circle. So let's sketch out a strategy of how to do it. And if we do it on paper, it will be very easy then to code. So let's come in, and what I'm going to do is I am going to draw our circle. Let's see if I can start it. And let's see if we can draw a nice kind of big circle here. Okay. I do not like that color. Let me get a more normal color. And I'm sorry, I'm very picky about these things, but a purplish magenta circle just isn't going to do it for me. Okay, so I'm going to come up here, and then I'm going to draw a nice, beautiful blue circle. Okay, and now I'm going to try to come in and get about in the middle of it. So this is what you have to see. You have to see a circle is nothing but a collection of points, and those points have an X value and those points have a Y value. So we've got to think of this as a point. Now we've also got to think of the center of the circle, and we've got to kind of think of this as being on an X-axis and a Y-axis. All right, so you see, what are we doing? We're trying to take a shape and we're going to try to turn it into something like math, okay? So imagine now what creates that circle. Well, what if we just had this? You could think of this as a pencil, and the pencil is on your axis. And when you spin that pencil around, it is going to generate a what? It's going to generate a circle. So what you've got to think about is you've got to think about this angle, And what that angle needs to do is it needs to rotate from where? 0 all the way back around to 360 degrees. And so we're going to go, the theta is going to go from 0 degrees to 360 degrees, like that, okay? So that's what a circle is. You knew this. You knew that there are 360 degrees in a circle, and so we can kind of draw it this way. Now, what is the x value? Well, let's just kind of make a triangle out of this. So it's going to come down here, and it's going to come over here, and I have an angle. Now, this here is the x value, and this here is the y value, and this point is the point xy. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. That should make perfect sense. Now this is, and then also the one other thing we need is we need to know the radius, or we need to have a radius of the circle. That's the distance from here to here. Now just think of that radius. If this is 3, then it just spins around and it draws a circle. So now what do we simply need to know? We need to know what is x as a function of the angle. Well, they taught you this. It's just you didn't remember it. What is x? X is the radius here times the cosine of the angle. All right, x is the radius times the cosine of the angle. Maybe they taught it to you as SOHCAHTOA or something like that, but it's real simple. If you've got the radius and you've got an angle, you can figure out what the x value is. And similarly, the y value is equal to r times the sine of theta. And really, to solve this problem, this is the two things that you need to know. Now, what I should say is, us normal people, most of us think in terms of degrees, okay? Degrees, and there are 360 degrees in a circle, but programming languages don't operate on degrees, they operate on radians, okay? And on radians, there are 2 pi radians. And so in radians, this would be 0 radians. And then if you go all the way around, then it is going to be 2 pi radians. If you come out here, this would be pi radians. If you go half of that, this would be pi over 2, straight up 90 degrees. And then down here would be 3 pi over 2. So it's just like degrees, but it's just different units. And so if we're thinking in degrees, the way we can get radians from degrees, okay, radians from degrees, it's equal to degrees divided by 360 times 2 pi. And I got to get out of your way here, okay? So radians is degrees times 360 divided by 2 pi. I'm going to put this up here, okay? Radians is equal to degrees divided by 360 times 2 pi. And I guarantee you that they taught you that as well, but that's another one of those that you probably forgot. So I like to think in degrees, then at the last minute I convert it to radians, and then I do the sines and cosines with the radian number, because that's what programming languages usually do. Now, also, what you got to think about is you got to think about that on our display, right? On our display, let me see if I can draw our display here, right? What we've got to remember is that we are, let me do that again, okay? Let me see if I can just do it, Let me see if I can do it up here. Okay, that looks good. And so what we got to remember is we are 128 pixels wide and we are 64 pixels high. And if we just came in and did these equations, what is it going to do? It's going to have the center of the circle at 0, 0, and then it is going to do it like this. because I've left it at the origin, which is 0, 0 is right here, 0, 0 is right here, and then it can't because it's off the screen. So what do I really need to do? I need to move it over, and I need to move it down, and then I need to draw it at the center. But that is really very easy because I just say that the x is equal to r cosine theta, which we already knew, and I just need to move it over by how much? By half the width of the display. So half of 128 is 64. So I just got to scoot it over by 64, and then y is equal to r sine theta, and I need to scoot it down by how much? Half of this, which is 32. So I'm just going to add 32. All right. Now, if I do this, and if I am not mistaken, I should be able to draw a circle on my OLED display. Could it really be that easy? Do you see how wonderful math is? When you're really trying to do things in the real world, math is your friend. But the problem is when they teach it to you, they taught you guys this, and you didn't remember it because you didn't see how you would ever need it. But now you want a circle on your little OLED, so now you need it. So let's come over here, and you guys that are just jumping into this lesson, remember last week I showed you how to hook this thing up. And what you guys can do is probably the easiest thing is to go back to lesson number 25. I'll show you the schematic here really quickly. This is how I have it hooked up. You can pause it and hook it up that way. And then also from last week's lesson, you need to go in and review how to install the SSD 1306 library so that you can get this thing to work. Okay, so look at last week's lesson if you haven't seen that. But now we're going to come in and we're going to program this up that we have just done. And so we're going to come here and we're going to open up Bonnie, and we're going to connect to the Raspberry Pi Pico, and we're going to jump in and start coding this thing. It's really pretty easy. So what do we need to do to start? What do we need to do to start? Let's see. Give me just a second here. I'll give you a beautiful view of the river here while we're trying to figure out a few of these other things. Okay, I just didn't quite have my windows where they needed to be, but we'll get there real quick. Real quick. Okay, we're going to come back over here, and now we are ready to code. All right, so we're going to be using the GPIO pins. We're going to need to say from machine import pin, and also we're going to be using that I2C bus to talk to the OLED, and then we are going to from SSD 1306 we're going to import SSD 1306 and the method I2C, because we're talking to the OLED by I2C. Then we're going to need to say from time import sleep, like that. And then finally, we're going to need to do that sine and cosine function. So we're going to need to import math like this. All right, so now let's set up our I2C bus, I2C. You can call yours whatever you want. I'm calling mine I2C. That's equal to I2C, the method that we just imported above. And now we've got to tell it what channel we are on. If you look at the way I hooked it up here, I am using GPIO pins 2 and 3, which are on I2C channel 1. And then I've got to tell it my SDA pin is equal to pin 2 if you hook it up the way I did. And then the SCL is equal to pin 3, and then the frequency that I am using is 400, or frequency is equal to 400,000. Okay, so now I have my I2C bus hooked up. Now let's go in and let's set up our display. I'm going to call mine DSP for display. This is my display object, and I use the method SSD 1306 underscore I2C that we just imported. okay? And then I got to tell it its size. It is 128 by 64 pixels, and I'm talking to it over that I2C object. I just created I2C lowercase like that. Okay, now we want to make a circle. Well, we have to have a radius, and so our R, what was the homework assignment? I told you the R should be 20 pixels. Okay, so I make R 20, and now I got to tell it where it is. The center, I want X center to be, I set in the middle, so that's over 64, and then Y center is equal to 32. And this just gets back to what we showed here. This is that 64 that I want to scoot it over, and then that is that 32 that I want to scoot it down. But I'm just giving it variable names, if that makes sense. Man, I'm in danger of running out of coffee before this video is over. Okay, I've got my variables set up, and now I want to, let's see, I want to come in, and now what I'm going to do is I am going to say for, now what do I have to do? I have to spin this 20 pixel radius. I've got to spin it around how many degrees? 360 degrees. So I'm going to say 4 degrees, 4 DEG in range. I'm going to go from 0 degrees to 360 degrees, and I'm going to go in 1 degree steps. And so it's going to go clickety, 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 clickety all the way around, and it's going to draw that circle. All right. Now, I really need radians, and so I'm going to convert to rads for radians. Rads is going to be equal to my degree times 2 times pi, which is 3.14, and then divided by 360. And I showed you that in our little math lesson earlier. So now I've got degrees and I've got radians. Now I can calculate the x value. X is just equal to R times, now I need that cosine function, and I get that with math.cos, math.cosine of what? Of rads. It wants rads. Okay, and now y is equal to r times math.sine of rads. All right, how's that? Okay, now I've got to color that pixel. I've got now the x and y value, right? I now have this x and y value. What do I need to do? I need to display it. And so what I'm going to do is I am going to say, let me also go ahead and I need to add to the x plus x center. So I'm scooting it over to the middle of the screen, and then y plus y center to get it to the center of the screen. And so now I need to display.pixel. I've got to light that pixel. And what is it? It is going to be x comma y, and then x comma y, and then I want to turn that on, and then it's going to be a 1. Now, one thing I should say here, sines and cosines can generate, they'll generate floating point numbers, and this pixel, I think it wants integers, and so I just need to go ahead and change that. I need to change this to an int of x, so I'm not passing this function a floating point number. So I'll take the int of x and the int of y, and then close that. All right, and now dsp.show. So I'm going to show it. And what this is going to do is, since I'm showing it point by point, you're going to see it just paint that thing point by point if I am thinking about it right. How many mistakes did I make in here? I will need you to hold your breath. It's going. It's alive. It's alive. Let's switch over here. Look at that. It is painting that circle. Oh, is that not a beautiful thing? Okay, I love it. A perfect circle. And how hard was that? You just got to use a little math, and it's easy. One thing I don't like is, you see there's a little disruption between the yellow part of the screen and the blue part of the screen. So I'm going to move that down a little bit further so that I can kind of get a perfect circle. And so let's move it down. Let's say Y center. Let's make the Y center. Let's bring it more down. Let's say about 40. Okay, let's try that. And let's see if that gives us a cleaner looking circle. And is that not beautiful? You can make a circle. Okay. And guys, you can do it a lot quicker. The display show takes some time. You could do it a lot quicker if you did it like this, and you just displayed it after you generated it. You don't display it point by point. And then when we run it, you see, boom, it just does it just almost instantaneously. So that's a faster way to do it. But I like to kind of watch it draw. Okay, I like to kind of watch it draw because then I can sort of see it forming. Okay, what do I not like about it? That's a little thin. What if I wanted, instead of a circle, what if I wanted to kind of make, you know, kind of like a range where you could kind of have a band, like almost then you could think of sort of like a dial type of thing. So let's see if I could come in, instead of R, I'm going to have like R start, and I'm going to have R stop. And let's say I start at a radius of, let's say I start at a radius of 15, and then let's say I go to a radius of 19, just to show you kind of do whatever you want. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say for R in range, and what range am I going to do? Well, from R start to R stop, and I'm going to go in steps of 1 like that. Okay, and now I'm going to put my colon. Now everything in this for loop, because I'm going to draw one and then draw another one and then draw another one, and so what that means is all this has to be indented under this for loop. Okay, so I'm going to indent all of this. Okay, so now the question is, will this make a band where it'll be kind of like a range of radiuses? This could be kind of exciting. And so let's come in and let's run it and see if it runs. And it looks like it's running. So we'll come over here to this view. It is making our first circle, and it looks like it's making the smaller one first, as we would expect. And now it is making another one. This is pretty cool. We'll just sit and watch this thing draw this. So right, I'm getting, you know, I'm kind of getting a more like a washer. I'm making a washer, and you can see that you could just keep going here. We're just going to watch this, and I'll show you how to make it go a little bit faster on the next time around. Is that pretty cool or what? I think that is absolutely pretty cool. Okay, I think it has finished. And so a way I could do it quicker would be if I display it after each circle is finished. And so that would mean I would take the display show. You didn't see that, did you? We'll come back over here. Okay, I will take this display show, and I won't show it for each point, but I will show it for each circle, so I could move it there. And now if we look at it, you see it just kind of came out like that. And let's try to make it more obvious. So I'm going to start at, let's say that I start at 5 and I go to 19 like that. And now let's make that. Wow, look at that. Let's go on up to 25, say, for the stop, and let's run it. Is that not just like really, really slick? I think I'm going to go back, let's say from 20 to 25. I want to see what that looks like. Okay, maybe go 15. I'm trying to get something that just looks the way I want. Okay, I didn't say, I said 14. Let's go 18. I'm just trying to get something that's about the right thickness for what I'm looking at. Okay, and then you can see you also don't have to go from 0 to 360. What if we went from, let's say, what would be the best way to do this? I would go from, minus 20 to 200. So let's see if I could go from minus 20 degrees to 200 degrees in 1 degree steps. And let's see what that does. That certainly was not what I expected. That was not what I expected. I know. It's just the y is upside down, right? The y is upside down because normally positive y is up, but for us, positive y is down, so I would need to make that negative. And also, I want to go a little bit further. I want to go from like minus 40 to 20. And let's see what that looks like. Okay. Yeah, that's what I wanted. And then what you can kind of see is it's almost like you're getting something where you could make a dial or a gauge here. And now you could have a line that went from one place to another. And then even in the middle, you could put like in the middle, you could put a number and you could sort of build a gauge this way. So this is pretty slick. Okay, are you guys having fun with this? Man, what I hope you see is the math is important, and I hope you guys just didn't punt when I said math. What did they teach you? They taught you that x is r cosine theta. They taught you that y is r sine theta. Now you know why it is important. And then what you also know is to get it in the middle of the screen, you got to scoot it over and scoot it down. And then it's just two equations that you thought were not going to be important. Turned out to be really pretty slick things. Show you my studio view here. You can see I'm trying to put things kind of neatly here, but I like to show you my studio every once in a while. Okay, I am going to give you guys a homework assignment. Okay, I am going to give you guys a homework assignment, and this is going to be a grand challenge of all grand challenges. Okay, give me a chance to do this, and it's going to seem almost impossible, but it turns out it's really, really easy. And my goal is that maybe one person out of this whole channel can figure this one out. Okay, maybe one person out of the whole channel can figure it out, but it's going to take me a second to get it up here. Okay, so give me a second. Give me a second. All right, where am I here? Okay, I've got it now. I've got it. Don't worry. I promise I've got it this time. So we're going to come back over here to this view, and what your homework assignment is. Now, some of you guys are going to say, that's impossible. You're going to run from the room crying like a little child. But a couple of you guys are going to think, I've seen that before, and I know how to do it, and it's easy. And so this, my friend, is your homework assignment. Your homework assignment, the grand challenge of all grand challenges, should you choose to pursue it, is to create the floating potato chip. And that will be the floating potato chip. Guys, I'm going to give you a hint here. You can't do it by doing dsp.makeFloatingPotatoChip. All right. You're going to have to do it. You're going to have to figure out how to do it. And it really, I love this. I have been fascinated with these things for since I was about 16 years old. And let's see if I can do another one here. Just the different things that you can do. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. I'll do a simpler one. That one was a little complicated. Let me do this one. I like it the other way better. So let me do this. Guys, I'm not running different programs. I'm just changing my floating potato chip program. I'm changing my floating potato chip program to give you these ones. This is sort of like a crown. It's like a rotating crown. Okay, let me just change it back to the assignment, guys. You know what? Who's your friend? Math is your friend. Okay, That's the sideways potato chip. Let me go back to the real potato chip, like this. Okay, there is the classic floating potato chip. Okay, you guys, will there be one person, 30,000 subscribers? Will there be one person that can figure out this this homework assignment? Okay, will there be one person that can figure out this homework assignment? And the thing that is going to be really amazing to you when you see it is it's a very, very small number of lines of code. It's like probably no more, or even it's probably less code than the circle that we just drew. Okay, I'll show you the homework assignment. I'll show you the solution to this next week. And it's kind of just, again, playing around with some fun little math things. Guys, I hope you're enjoying taking this class as much as I am making it. If you enjoyed the video, give us a thumbs up. Also leave a comment down below, and that will help us with the old YouTube juice. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, subscribe. When you do, make sure you ring that bell so that you get notifications when future lessons drop. And as always, the most important thing is share this with other people, because the world needs more people doing math and engineering and fewer people sitting around watching silly cat videos. Paul McWhorter with TopTechBoy.com. I will talk to you guys later.